From up here all scale bends, he said to me. To the east, the icy wastes of Siberia, and to the west, Alaska. Between the clouds we glimpse the toy towns we inhabit with our life-sized lives. And as for the clouds, the never less than beautiful clouds, from up here in this Arctic summer, they are silver to the core, so full, so cosily substantial in their inviting, whitily, big sheep cotton wooliness. He then faced me with a tight, beseeching grin and said, I'm preparing to accept this invitation. Care to join me in a little drinky? So many rounds of whiskies or whatnot for my hostess, drinking whatever I'd leave, but bade for still more.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking. On this Boeing 737 flight, we are currently flying at 500 miles an hour at a height of 20,000 feet, and we should be arriving in London at approximately 8 p.m. local time. We wish you all a very pleasant flight.
I'll drink to that, he said, swirling his whiskey in his plastic cup. 20,000 feet. 20,000. How many ladders is that? You see, he leant into my seat, taking me into his confidence. You must understand, I've the most terrible vertigo, but the question is, what are the forces that draw you down? Germans, you see, call vertigo Höhenangst, height fear. But do they mean the fear of heights or of falling? Or as any half-witted wit would put it, the fear of hitting the ground, ho ho ho. No. Vertigo, my friend, is a thing of sirens, the gentle but overwhelming tug of the hands of angels. Of course, the time soon came for the stewardess to refuse him any more alcohol. This made him resort to begging her on his knees. The embarrassment and noise compelled her to sharply order him to, as she put it in her studied English,
My God, please, monsieur, pull yourself together and behave like a man.
He swayed for some moments on his knees and, to everyone's surprise, swiftly and suddenly stood up, returned to his seat without a further word, and promptly passed out. As he snored and snored, I read, snoozed, read, chatted up the stewardess, fell asleep, dreamt of her smiling face, awoke to her smiling face and asked her for coffee. My neighbour eventually shuffled to attention and ordered the same. Once they had arrived, he pulled a notepad from his briefcase and started writing. He wrote, nodded, sighed, crossed out and did the same. After doing this many, many times, he sat back and appeared to relax for some time. But he then suddenly sat up, quickly wrote something and immediately folded the paper, placing it in his breast pocket. As he did so, he withdrew an enormous joint and poked it in his mouth. All eyes turned. The stewardess leant very closely into his face and said,
Passengers are reminded that this is a non-smoking flight. In other words, monsieur, please do not light that thing.
A lighter appeared, he lit it, and inhaled deeply. As the stewardess cursed him loudly in French, he turned to me and groaned, You can't get any peace around here, can you? He drew again deeply on his joint, blew the smoke into her eyes, stood up quickly, grabbed her to him and addressed the other passengers. Ladies and gentlemen, your attention please. You will presently experience a sudden drop in cabin air pressure. Please do not be alarmed by this, but I urgently recommend you fasten your seatbelts immediately. Thank you. He leant into my face and said, "Keep her here." Then he pushed the stewardess into his seat, tightened the belt around him, and said into my ear, "She likes you, don't waste it." In seconds he had proceeded to the exit, opened the door wide, and was sucked down to the open sky. Much later, when everything was safe and sound, I found the note he'd planted on me. It read, "After such a small life, I thought I'd spoil myself." The chaos and cold it caused us by jumping had us desperately reaching for the oxygen masks. I somehow managed to drag my face to the window, and I actually saw him, a man falling, then a spiraling X, then simply a dot, downwards, until he entered the whitest cloud and was gone, forming a tunnel, the mint with a hole all the way down.